Okay, and we don't have to, Andrea, you don't have to be on video if you don't want. Um, okay, let me make sure that's out of the way. All right, guys. So we are. Hold on. Why do I hear? I put yourself on mute, Andrea. Okay, let me just put her on mute. All right. So we are in chapter one, guys. And before I get started with chapter one, I just want to know, are there any questions? Are there any questions regarding participation, how to access your courses? Are we good? Everybody's good? All right. All right. Sounds great. All right. Well, let's go. Well, in chapter one, it is going to talk about pretty much what this class is about, which is career preparation, career planning. I don't think any of us are surprised at the fact that there is no secret to success. We've heard that 1,000 times, and it's true, right? Most successful people plan. Um, they have long-term goals, they have short-term goals, and they work towards those goals, whether it's just your career or it can even be your financial goals. Like we're very familiar with, okay, well, if we want to buy a house or we want to retire or we want to start our own business, that we have to plan that out, right? Most of us know, okay, I can't just wake up tomorrow and purchase a home. I can't just wake up tomorrow and start my own business. I need to plan that out, right? I need to know how much money I need. What are my startup costs? What are my operational costs? How big do I want my business to be? And I have to plan it out. Some people don't think of that when they think of their career goals, but it needs to be the same. Like, have you thought through, oh, okay, I'm in the electrical field now, but what is my long term objective? Am I trying to be a master electrician and own my own business one day? Am I working in the VA field and maybe I want to go on to be a vet tech and then maybe go on to be a veterinarian maybe one day? Or maybe I want to stop at being a veterinary specialist and open up a mobile clinic and work with exotic animals or work with large farm animals. Like, what is my vision? You need some type of long term vision because that is what you need to work towards. I don't think I need to remind anyone, especially in this economic climate, you cannot just go to a company and think you're going to be safe, right? Companies come and go. You don't know the mindset of that owner. You don't know if that owner is planning to retire in 2 years. You don't know the mindset of a corporation. Sometimes we think that, oh, if we work at a large corporation, that we have safety. But sometimes that large corporation merges with another corporation and then they fire half the staff, or maybe the company decides it's going to, move to a different location. You think they're going to tell you? They're not, right? Um, Maybe they decide, oh, okay, we messed up when we tried to expand last year, so now we have to cut. Anybody know that? Oh, we have to cut, and so they decide they're going to cut the bottom half of the group people that they hired last year. We see that happening in government now. They're not going to give you a warning, my friends. I promise you that, because they don't want you to, or they assume that people will try to, sabotage the company if they know in advance the nerve of that, right? But people do that. I find it very disheartening that that happens. I actually worked for one company when I first left the military, and they were called Fujisawa Healthcare. They were Japanese-owned pharmaceutical company. I give so much respect to that company. When that company decided that it was going to split into two different companies, they told the staff almost a year in advance. They gave the staff an opportunity to decide which company they wanted to work for. And for those people that were losing their jobs, they actually brought in a recruiting service to help people do their resumes and get a new job. I cannot make this up. I've never ever worked for another company that has been that gracious. This company would have different program. We had a cafeteria. Um, the company would have different programs every 3 years. It's a place where I got my first computer. They would recycle their computers, and you can just go in and they'll give you a computer that they were recycling. They had wellness days. I mean, it was I was too young to know. I was working at, how they say those top best places to work at, top 100 best companies to work for. I had it and I just didn't know any better, but hindsight's 2020. Very few companies are like that now. Let me tell you, very few companies are like that now. Most companies nowadays will never tell you what they're doing. You'll just get a pink slip and you'll be out of a job. Why am I really leaning in on that? Do not put your career in the hands of a company. Do not. You have to have your own goal. You have to know when you start that first job, I am going to be here for 3 years. That's my goal. Does that mean you have to be there for 3 years? No. Does that mean you can't be there longer? No. But it needs to make sense with your career. If you've decided I'm going to become a veterinary specialist or I'm going to go back to school and be a veterinarian within 5 years, I'm only going to stay in this job for 2 years and then I'm going to go back and be a VT. Stick to your plans. Do not let the company dictate, oh, you're such a good worker. You know what? I want to promote you and have you just run the office. And next thing you know, now you're a slave to that company. And you look up and it's 5 years in and you haven't done anything you're supposed to do. Does that make sense? Don't do that. Like, even if it's, oh, your situation changes, your family dynamic changes, and you need to adjust, you can do that all day long. But you need to be selfish when it comes to your career. That is the only way you are going to make it up the chain, is if you are selfish. Because let me tell you, companies do not have you in mind when they think about their plans. They're not supposed to, right? Yes, you are one of what they call stakeholders. You are a stakeholder, but for the most part, their top stakeholders are who? Their investors. And that is who they're going to focus mostly on. Yeah, as an employee, you have a stake in the institution, but you're not a top stakeholder. So they're not going to operate with you in mind. You are running your own business. You are your business. You have to have yourself in mind, right? So career preparation, it varies from person to person, right? It's not a job, it's a career. You need to start thinking about what your career pathway is going to be. Some of us may say, honestly, I don't have any idea. Listen, I just thought this was a good idea to start this type of work. I've always loved animals. I've always been good working with my hands. I know my uncle owns a electrical business, so that's why I'm here. You don't know a lot about your industry. Start learning about your industry so you can start figuring out what is my long term objective. There's two websites you can go to, I have listed here. One is called the Network or Occupational Information Network, right? And you can go there and they have all different types of, information about online programming and things of that nature. I'm not online programming, different, industries and things of that nature. You can also go to the Department of Labor. They put out tons of information on different, occupations and employment and jobs and what happening in this career, what's happening in that career. And that's very important because, again, most industries operate through on the economy. Like right now, if you go to do some research, you may find that there's certain industries that are lagging. Has anyone ever paid attention to that? Do we know what industries are lagging behind right now because of what's happening in the economy and in the larger global economy, the larger political climate? What industries have affected? Have you guys seen anything in the news? Anybody want to share? I know I've heard some stuff about the construction industry, the housing market. Have you guys been paying attention to that? Yeah, go ahead, Samantha.
Sorry, I accidentally pressed the raise hand option.
Oh, you just wanted to give a thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, 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 but it's true, right? So it's very important for you to understand what is happening in both our political and economic climates because it will affect your industry. So does that mean you need to start watching the news? Well, maybe, but you definitely need to pay attention to what is happening in your industry. Maybe your industry is dying out in Florida. Maybe it's increasing in New Mexico. Like you need to know that. What if you want to start your own business? You got to do that research, guys. The worst killer of business and even professions is not knowing what's going on in your industry. That's the worst thing that kills people is when they don't do their research and they do a lot of investment and then it comes to realize that they're in the wrong market or they're in the wrong industry. So do your research on your industry. Why is that? You have to create a plan, right? There's no secret to success. So what is a plan? Well, it differentiates someone that is just thinking about, oh, okay, what do I want to do with my life, in 10 years, with someone that actually documents what they want to do. So a plan is a documentation, and it starts with where you are today versus where you're trying to be. We call it a long-term goals because you want it to be like 10 years out, 20 years out. I know you're thinking 20 years out. Yes, 20 years out. Where do I want to be? And then what you do is you back into that time. So if you're thinking, okay, where do I want to be in 10 years? Here I am today. Let me back from 10 years from now to today. And each of the steps that you've identified you need to take, just because it's 10 years, it doesn't mean you need to take 10 steps. You may need to take just three major steps. We call those action items. Sometimes we call them short term goals. So the goal that you're trying to set 10 years out is your long term goal. It doesn't mean that your career ends in 10 years. It means that that's just your first big goal. And then the steps that you take for that first big goal are action steps or short term goals. Does everyone understand that? Does that make sense? You're going to have quite a few long term goals in your career, and you may have more than one simultaneously. So let's say I am in the electrical field and I decided that I want to, one, become a master electrician. And my second goal is to start my own business. Now, those two goals may run concurrently, even if it means in the first 6 years, I'm going to work on becoming a master electrician, but I want to start my own business within the next 8 years. So I may have a plan that's running to run my own business and another plan that's running to become a master electrician. They may have some overlapping short-term goals, but the plan to start my own business is going to include obviously saving and what it takes to get a license and startup costs. While the plan to become a master electrician is going to include, okay, what type of jobs I'm going to take in between, which also may coincide with my long-term goal because if I decide I want to, start a small business, as running some type of electrical business, I may say, well, I'm going to go work for a small business because if I go work for a small business, then I get to see the ins and outs of running the business. So my long-term goal of running a business and becoming a master electrician, they can have some overlapping steps. Does that make sense? Make sense, guys? Right. Now, some people are crazy enough to even have three goals. I'm not going to go there, but you do what you need to do, but just understand that you really need to think through what is my ultimate idea of, my goal, and then you can break them down into two, three long-term goals, and each of those goals have to have action steps. Now, some of us may say, well, I don't even know if I would be good at running my own business. Yes, I think I want to run my own business, but how do I even know I have the wherewithal to do that? There are these things called self-assessment tests, and one of them we're going to have you take today, and it also assesses your skills because some of us may feel like, well, do I even have the skill set to do certain things? Yes, I know I'm in this field, and yes, I know I'm doing good, but I just maybe want to do a little psychological test just to see what the test has to say, and maybe it can help me in deciding what my long-term goals should be, right? And the reason we want to do that is because we want to make sure that when we set these goals, they're smart. So what we're about to discuss are these three things. This idea of assessing ourselves to say where am I on this spectrum of being successful? with my long term goal? What skills do I have? And how do I set these goals and make sure that they're smart? So, when you talk about self assessments, it's all about measuring your personal attitudes as it relates to who you are as a person, right? It can provide you some information about what you're naturally good at. We call that aptitude. What your abilities are. What is your personality? We know our personality, but sometimes you only know your personality based on what other people tell you, right? Or how people respond to you. Sometimes it's good to have like an official you know, assessment telling us, okay, well, this is how your personality is, or people with your traits tend to have this type of personality. So it's good to know what your aptitude is. Again, sometimes this comes just from interacting with people. This is your cognition, this is things that you do naturally. Maybe you have a natural aptitude for taking tests. Some people have a natural aptitude for being good with numbers. I know for me, I have a natural aptitude for big picture ideas. I'm very, very, very visual. Someone can say to me, I want to do anything. They can say, I want to, do this big plan to start a business in Guatemala, and I'm gonna, help the indigenous people with technology. For some weird reason, I have the ability to see it all in my head. Are there any other visionaries out there like that? Just vision. I can envision it, and then I can scribble it down on paper. I don't know. I have the ability to see things in a vision. I have a natural aptitude for that. It's good for me because it allows me to. It helps me with education. Actually, I tell people I can absorb anything and teach it. Even if I ain't even interested in it, I can teach you anything because I don't know, I can visually see it. And for some reason, if I can visually see it, then I can talk about it, even if I've never done it. I just have a natural aptitude for that, right? Now, others have ability. Ability is your ability to master something, right? You have a natural capacity to do something. Sometimes it comes physical, like you have a natural capacity to ability to lift 1,000 pounds, right? Whatever, right? Some people just have a natural ability. I know my daughter, she is really good at hand eye coordination, not me. You throw me something, I'm ducking. You could throw this kid something across the room, her back can be turned, and she just has this sense. And she's just good at hand eye coordination. I wish I was. I did not do good in softball because I'm not good at hand-eye coordination, but she has a natural ability to do that. So you may have natural abilities too. You may think about, oh, okay, that's why people always calling me to do this, or that's why, people always, give me compliments for that, but if you don't know, that's what these tests are good for. Your personality is a blend of what? It's a blend of your attitude, your values, how do you think about things, and it definitely affects how you are in the workplace, my friends. Your personality definitely affects how you are in the workplace. It affects how you're going to manage a business. It's very important for you to understand, what is my personality type. How am I? They have these tests called Myers Briggs. Has anyone ever taken a personality test before? I know some companies actually have you do that, and you may even end up. Okay, Samantha has. Um, Najala is Nelajala. How do I pronounce it? I'm curious. Oh, a lot of people have, right? A lot of people have. Um, so you know that these tests are all designed to see, what is your psychological preference. Now, some companies, this is very important that you take these tests. When I worked in banking, of all places, they made you take these personality tests. I'm trying to think that I think it was twice in banking I had to take these tests. I'm trying to think why in banking now, but those tests were very, very important. So yes, okay. Miss Taylor's telling me that I need to have a sense of who I am as a person, which I don't know. I didn't realize I need a psychological exam for my job or my career. Yeah, you kind of do, right? Because it really is just going to help you navigate. Listen, if someone would have told me 20 years ago, Miss Taylor, you do better working by yourself. I would have wasted I wasted so much time not knowing that. I don't know about anybody else, but if somebody would have told me you do better working by yourself. I didn't know I was a linear person. I didn't know that I actually leaned more towards science and technology and math. I thought I was a people person, because I like to teach, I like to talk, but I like to work alone. And it took me years to navigate to some of the fields that I'm in now. And it all came because I actually did not understand that I was a linear person. But then I realized that when I did math or when I did learn computers, that I had an aptitude for it and I liked it better, right? So if I would have known that, I probably would have gone down that route a lot sooner. So it is very important for you to kind of know what makes you comfortable. You have to start asking yourself the question, dang, why is it I tend to um, do better in this environment and not better in the other environment? Why is it that maybe I get more energized when I'm on a team and we're doing a think tank? Or why is it I feel like I'm more energized when I'm working by myself and I can concentrate? What does that mean and how will that affect my career? You may have heard people say that you tend to be more successful when you do things you're naturally good at. Has anyone ever heard that before? That you do better when you're doing things you're naturally good at. There's a lot of truth to that, guys. There's a lot of truth to that. So, how are these skills are important to you? Well, let me tell you something. Even companies hire you based on your skills. If you've ever noticed in a job posting, they always put technical skills or hard skills and soft skills on every job description. You're going to be going to like an indeed.com, and I encourage you to do it now for those of us that are actively looking now for jobs. And notice the job descriptions. They always start out with your technical skills and then they go to those soft skills because even at the company, they're looking for a particular type of person. So here's an example. On the right hand side, they talk about your hard skills. On the right hand side, they talk about your hard skills. We need you to be an accountant, a carpenter, a computer programmer. We want you to have experience with knowing how to weld, right? Those are technical skills. But what are some of the soft skills they want you to have? They want you to be an active listener, a good communicator, a problem solver, right? Time management. Those are equally important to whatever company that you're working for. You need to pay attention to those skill sets because they're subliminally telling you, hey, this is the type of person that we need at this job. And they're telling you that for a reason. It's not because they want to have a party, it's because that type of work that you're going into requires that type of personality. Think about it. If you're in the VA field, you're going into the veterinary field, working at a hospital is different from working at a rescue center. It's different from working at a conservation site. Is it not? Now, one person that may have the personality to work at a pet hospital or a clinic, or it may not be the same type of person that wants to work at a rescue shelter, right? Rescue shelters require you to get up at midnight and go across the state to pick up some animals that somebody may have found. Is that your personality? Is that you? Or are you the type of person that maybe wants to work in a big hospital where there's some research and maybe you want to work at a research lab and you want to really be part of, finding a cure for terminal diseases for animals? Like what type of person are you? You really need to start thinking about that and what is going to make sense for your career, right? So, even technology, you can't get away from it. Y'all have heard it, but you can't get away from it. Give me a thumbs up if technology is playing a big part in your work right now, in your career field, more so than you thought, right? Now, some of us, we already kind of knew it was kind of taking over. But if you're surprised to have learned all the things that you may need, even if it's like handheld devices, software applications that you have to use, different monitoring systems that you have to do, technology, my friends, it's here to stay, and I don't want to say it's getting worse. I think it's just making things get more efficient, but you almost need a degree in technology to just do your job. You know, people are going to expect you to know the basics of computers. Like, you should already know that. When you work for a company, you're not just going to be doing your technical skills work. If you're out on a job site, let's say you go to work, for an institution that deals with residential services, you're probably going to have some type of handheld device, a laptop, iPad, or something that you're going to have to work on. If you do commercial, you're probably going to have to do a lot of reports. Of course, those of us that are working in VA, you already know you're going to be at the computer doing intake and all kinds of stuff. You need to learn how to use these systems. Your company may be working on the cloud. They could be working, and we'll talk about what that means. They could be working in different software applications that requires you to understand how different platforms work, right? So it's very important for you to learn some skills, basic computer skills, because when you start a job, they just expect you to know it. They expect you to know it. Now, some of them may not use it as much as others, but most of them do. So, finally, let's get into what a SMART goal looks like, because you will be taking a personality assessment today, and it's very easy. When you go to that assignment, you click on it, it takes you to the website, and you take the personality test. Something else that you'll be doing today is setting your first long term goal. I would prefer if you do two. When you read in chapter one about setting goals, they'll give you some very generic things like, oh, I want to have better time management. I want to graduate. I want to, something generic, but I want you to write a career goal. You are going to be using this long term goal to do your project in week 4. If you don't do your long term goal right, then your project is not going to make sense. So please, please pay attention to what your long term goal needs to be. Your long term goal, I would like for you to have two, but one, at minimum, needs to be SMART, which is an acronym. What does that mean? The goal, before you set it, must be specific, it must be measurable, it must be attainable, realistic, and timely. What does that mean? When you write this goal statement, it needs to state what you are going to do. It needs to provide a way for you to evaluate what you are going to do. It needs to stay within the scope of what you're trying to do, be practical, and have a specific date. Now, if you notice the two goals that I set for myself, as an example, electrical students, they actually had the SMART goal in mind. I'm going to state my first goal, and I want you to tell me if it passes the SMART test. Now, my first goal said I wanted to become a master electrician. Here it is. My goal is to become a master electrician within 6 years. Any electricians in the building? Anybody in the electrical field? It's probably not going to work if you're not in electrical field. Okay, good. I have at least one person. So you're going to have to be the teacher. You're going to let me know if I pass the test. And everybody else can participate too. We definitely need an electrical person here.
I think I'm not electrical,
Oh, you're
but
not?
we
Okay.
work in electrical
Okay.
HIV too.
All right. So here's what I'm trying to do. I want to make sure it makes sense, especially when it gets too realistic. All right. Was my goal specific? I would like to become a master electrician within 6 years. Did I state what I wanted to do? I didn't say I want to be in the electrical field. I said I stated specifically that I want to become a master electrician, right? Second goal, I want to, I'm sorry, second letter. I want to become a master electrician within 6 years. Did I provide a metrics? I gave it a time, right? I want to become a master electrician within 6 years. Now, here's the big one. Is it attainable? Can I become a master electrician within 6 years? What do you guys think? Even if you're not electrical, maybe the HVAC crew or the welding.
Well, depend if you pull yourself, you can probably make it. You never know.
Well, I think I can because I know you have to go through a few steps, but we're just going to pretend there's no electrical people to tell us any different. So we're going to say yes, we
Yeah.
can, right? Yes, we can. I'm be Obama for a minute. All right. So I can. Is attainable? Is it realistic? I didn't say I was trying to be a master electrician tomorrow, did I? I didn't say I was going to do it in 2 years. It's probably not realistic. 6 years, that means it gives me time to get some experience under my belt. I get to go back to school because I think you have to go back and take a test. You have to get some certifications. 6 years is attainable. And most importantly, I put a time limit on it. I didn't say, one day I hope to be a master electrician. My friends, that's called a dream. If you want to make something happen, you can't hope. You got to plan. You understand? That's how it goes. There's no secret to success. There's nobody out here better than anybody else. The biggest difference between somebody that did and somebody that didn't is those that plan. And yes, everybody's plans look different, and some people's plans take longer. But that bottom line is you got to plan. That's it. There's school of hard knocks. How you want to lose weight? You you got to work out, right? You got to eat right. All right. So my long term goal is to become a master electrician within 6 years. This is what I want you guys to do. I want you to create a long term goal, two, and make sure they pass the SMART test. Does that make sense, guys? Any questions on that? No? All right, my friends. So, when you are doing these, planning, it's called a career ladder. If you a career ladder is typically, anybody ever heard of career ladder? It's like you working your way up to the top, and it goes in like a sequence. Mostly it's like, oh, I'm an accountant. I go there to be an accountant, then I become an accounting supervisor, then I become an accounting manager,
Yeah.
then one day
Me-
that, it's like ladder. But the other way is a lattice. That's more like if you decide I'm in the VA field, but then I want to go back to school to be a VT. Then I want to work my way in VT for a couple years. Then I want to go back to school to be a VA. I mean a veterinary specialist. Then maybe I want to specialize in certain type of research. But then maybe down the road I want to go be a veterinarian. So you're not taking like this straight shot up. You're like working your way to different ways up. There's no right or wrong way to do that, but that's all it is. We'll come back to career portfolio when we start talking about LinkedIn, but chapter one does kind of start opening you up to what that means. So make sure you read that. All right. So here is your question for today. Here is your participation question for today. Please remember this needs to be done by 12:30. Here's what I want to know. What do you think your top 3 hard skills are unique to your career? Top 3 hard skills. Hmm? Top 3 hard skills. Now, if you don't currently have them, maybe you currently have them. And what are your top 3 soft skills? Now, those don't have to be directly to your career. Top 3 hard skills, whether you have it or it's unique to your career, and top 3 soft skills. These are ones that you personally possess that you transfer from career to career, right? They do not have to be part of your career, but ones you specifically have. Maybe you have good time management. Maybe you're already a great communicator. Maybe you're already really skilled at organizing. What are your top 3 soft skills? What are your top 3 hard skills? This is your participation question for today. All right, my friends, I've already told you that you have to take your personality test. This is on the website, and you have to do your career plan part one, setting your long term goals. Do we have any questions? We don't have any questions. I'm going to stop the recording right now. Anybody that has questions, you're free to stay back. Anybody that does not have questions, you're free to go, and I will talk.